today onwards that we try to understand or may do the lectures for some time through online. We'll see whether how it is possible and whether it's kind of attractive. Since that normally I'm trying to get a kind of introduction from you all, but today we are unable to do it. So so we will straight away start the kind of sessions and kind of a ground rules. Since that 4 of you have joined, what you can do is like you can switch off your microphone while I am delivering my lecture. And if you do have any questions, you can anytime interrupt me and ask your question, and then you can switch off again. So that's basically for the benefit of everybody, so that you can have a clear communication from my end. If you do have any sort of issues of understanding, again you can interrupt me and say that the voice not clear, video is not clear, kind of. So those are the the basics, the ground rules that we need to set up here, because everybody is new to this kind of environment. But I do think that we may be able to get a kind of a more professional sort of communication platform, because since that you are staying at home and you can get a maximum out of the session, whereas you are not going to do any sort of traveling, which is again it's the best for you. So let's see that how far that we can manage these things until the things are okay. So basically just give a kind of introduction about myself. I am Tushar Asuraman. Right now I am attached to Nation Trust Bank, and there basically I am overlooking the credit management aspects in terms of more risk perspective. I have been doing lectures for about since 2011. So I'm planning to undertake lectures on development financing from today onwards. So in order to make a kind of a start, so we'll start with the syllabus. This is not exactly that you need to kind of memorize or whatever, but I just want to give a kind of a syllabus overview, and then you have an idea what exactly we are planning to do during these 3 to 4 months. Of everybody seeing the screen. Hope everybody sees the screen, right? If you do have any concern, yeah, please let me know. So basically, development financing consists of 4 areas. First one is basically introduction to project finance, where we try to understand in brief what is the project financing, how we are going to define the project financing, and what do you understand by collateral-based finance or the project-based financing, and in terms of the type of projects, type of collateral. So like that, we need to try to get a kind of basic understanding about project financing. So that's a kind of a first module, I must say, or the first session. Then we have a very lengthy session about area that is called project appraisal, which is the core of the project or the development financing subject. So it basically covers, judging, ascertaining the feasibility, which covers market management, technical, financial feasibility. And then we try to understand environment feasibility as well, economic feasibility. And then we try to also undertake some mathematical or the quantitative techniques into investment appraisal, like methods of payback, NPV, IRR to that extent. And finally, that we try to understand about how to manage sick projects, litigation, what are the legal actions that we need to undertake, kind of. Then third area is basically SME financing. So SME financing is again significant area in our lending book. So which is again coming under the development financing subject. So it basically talks about defining SME, what's the role of SME in economic development in a kind of a developing country. So why the SME's role is important to national economy or the country, maybe the government or the financial institutions. Then how the SMEs are trying to source the funds for their businesses, and what are the kind of external concessions and kind of issues that they are facing, remedial actions, so and so forth. So basically, that's the area where we call about section 3. Finally, the section 4 covers the microfinancing. It talks about the microfinancing, what's the definition, what's the advantage or the significance of microfinancing in a country like Sri Lanka, and what are the the best practices in microfinancing, what are the global challenges. So that sort of learning also we are trying to understand under the microfinancing area. So basically we are trying to understand 4 subject or the 4 areas under the development financing syllabus. But out of these 4, because that the most important part could be the project appraisal. Why I'm telling is because 50 to 60% of the question paper is related to the project financing. Maybe SME financing takes about to 20% or so. Microfinancing could be like 10%, and general about introduction maybe around 5 to 10%. So that's how the basically the examination paper is going to set. But having said that, I encourage you to go through all the areas of the syllabus, because we can't exactly say every time we are getting a microfinancing question. So sometimes we might get a question, sometimes we might not get a question. So that you can't say I'm not going to do the microfinancing. So that is not possible. So better you understand each and every area as much as possible. So when we are like doing the lectures, I am also giving some more practical examples so that it get more idea about what's a particular subject, particular content. And then at the end of the sessions, we are trying to do past papers so that you get further internalized about these topics. So generally what we are trying to do is we try to cover different modules covering each and every subject area or the syllabus. And once we completed that, we move to past papers, and then we are trying to do further internalization of a kind of syllabus area so that you are ready for the exam. So that's the kind of my study plan. So having said that, so I again welcome you everybody to development financing. So today we are trying to start it in a different way, as I was telling in the beginning, because since that new people have joined, we'll see that how far that we can proceed, and how best that we can get out of this pandemic period. And as I was telling you at upfront, if you do have any questions, you can interrupt me and raise kind of a question, so that then and there that I'm in a position to answer your queries. So if not, the post lecture also that you can raise your question, and then we can move in that way. So possibly, so we'll see that how best that we can start the session, continue the session. So today basically we have a 2-hour period. So during the period, I will see whether how much that I can share with you in a modular form. So let's start from the session 1. Right. The session 1 is to understand introduction to project lending and types of lending, or rather introduction to project financing and understand the categories of lending. That is the first session that I am trying to discuss with today. During today's presentation, I am trying to discuss with you the nature of project financing or importance of the project financing, and then why the project financing is there, and why this, the so-called project appraisal is important. And again, then we try to understand in brief what is the project financing, and also then we try to understand the type of lending available in the general market, and what is the differences between the type of lending for our understanding. I would like to tell you, because today that it's a kind of introduction, and then there is a detailed session that we are trying to understand about the project or project financing in later session, so that you can get a detailed idea about project financing. So first we move to nature and the importance of project financing. What's the nature? So basically we need to understand why this type of financing available in the general market. So we talk about SME financing, microfinancing, project financing. So different types of words are hearing. So in that context, let's try to understand the nature of project financing. First line talks about long-term versus the short-term. What do you understand by the long-term versus the short-term? When you say project, take example, putting up a hydropower plant, putting up a hospital, putting up a hotel. When you are trying to put up, construct, start that type of a venture, it takes a longer time from the planning stage to operational level. It might take sometimes 2 years, 3 years. Or take an example like harbor, highway project, highway. So you can't finish it within a year, within 3 months, within 6 months. Why? Because it talks about a longer perspective, longer tenure. That's why it's a long term rather than short term. When you see a kind of a initiative, a venture, which takes a longer period of time for starting to implementation to operation, then we try to understand it as a project. So longer versus shorter will decide whether it's a project financing or some other financing. What I'm telling here is, let's say, example, say you may meet a kind of a entrepreneur. He needs some financing to continue or expand his business in terms of working capital. What do you think? Working capital, it's a short term. You invest in today, maybe 3 to 6 months, that you get a kind of return, so that you can plan it easily. You can grant a kind of loan without a bigger hassle, and then you can recover faster. But here, it is not. Longer versus shorter. So one of the characteristics of the project finance is long term compared to the short term. We move to the second point, larger versus smaller investment terms. Because take the same example that we just spoken about. Maybe harbor, maybe highway, maybe a lesser investment like a hospital, but still it talks about the bigger investments, higher amount compared to working capital you are talking about, compared to purchasing a machine, compared to purchasing a vehicle. It may not be 5 to 10 million, but when you talk about hospital, talk about a hydropower plant, talk about a garment factory, so it takes a bigger investment. A hotel, probably a 1 billion investment to some extent. Apartment complex, 3-4 billion investment. So in terms of investments also, you can categorize the project, larger investment versus to the smaller investment. The third one, complicated in terms of cash flows, time value of money. That is another characteristics that you need to understand, identify. When we talk about projects, how we are getting the money in return? Money would only return based on the successful implementation of the project. Compared to the previous example I was telling about, say there's an entrepreneur wanted some money to purchase additional stocks. If the stocks may not be materialized, but he may have still some money through his day-to-day operation so that he can set off the bank debts. But in projects, it may not be easy. If you talk about 5 billion investment, the project is not successful, it's very difficult to a particular entrepreneur to use his own money, use his other money, use his general day-to-day money to settle the 5 billion debt. So important here is future cash flows. The customer, entrepreneur should generate future cash flows in order to settle the particular loan that he is going to pay. Then again, the last point, time value of money, because you know the time value easily could be clarified or explained. Say the money that you are having today is worth than the money you are getting in years' time. It talks about time value of money. So in project financing also, we need to think about time value of money. So if you see a project, initiative, a venture, long-term, larger investment, more complicated in terms of future cash flows, and it involves is the time value of money. So it is a project. It's a project financing. It's an investment financing. So basically, those are some of the features that you need to understand. That's what we try to learn about under the nature. Then we move to the importance. Why the project's important? Why it is important? You need to understand that also. Because the first point is large amounts of resources are involved. Business strategy, profitability, and survival. What are those words? Because not like a smaller initiative in a project, it's a big money, huge money you need to invest. Just think about example that we look at the outset. Say you want to do a kind of hotel, say 2 billion investment. So you need a bigger money of 2 billion by way of a bank loan, by way of equity, or maybe the investor. So start, operate, and complete. And let's say when you have 2 billion, let's say out of your business, existing business, and then if the particular business is not successful, then what happened? Probably a failure in terms of profitability, or your business strategy may be questionable, or even your survival of your company. So high risk that you are going to take with these type of investment. So very important to take that kind of a decisions. So before you are taking that kind of a decision, it's very important that you need to think about whether go ahead or not decision. So that's why in future, we are trying to learn about project in detail, project financing in detail. There we talk about the feasibility is. Right? You need to have a very good feasible project in order to even think before financing. The last point under the importance, difficult to bail out once an investment made. What is that? You know, because when you are trying to understand the investment, as I was telling, it's a big amount. So once you commit, it's so difficult to come back. I will explain further through an example. Let's say if you want to put up an apartment, say high-rising apartment, which may cost about, say, 3-4 billion, for example. And then when you're trying to do that, let's say you have done about your feasibility, you're happy with that, you have very good investor, you have own money, and the bank is also ready to finance you. Then what happens is, let's say when you are trying to, make the ground ready for that, so you might undertake about piling and kind of treatments to the soil, including soil treatment, piling, kind of a huge investment onto the ground before you start in the apartment. Suppose you want to scrap this project, abandon this project, what could be the cost? Because we have invested hugely on the soil, the land, the ground. Let's say if you are moving out of the project, that you may not be easily use that ground for some other project because it's now suitable for the apartment. So huge cost that you have incurred. So very difficult to move out. Sometimes out of the total cost, it might be 10% or 20%. It's a big amount. When you're moving out, you are a loser. So very important to see that, what type of decisions that you are going to undertake in terms of project financing. So we try to understand the nature of the project financing. We try to understand the importance of the project financing in this first area. Do you have any questions, my dear student? Hope you have understood what I have so far discussed with you. Any questions, please?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you do have any questions, please just raise your questions, and then we will move more interactive way. Then we move to the definitions. In order to understand any topic, it's better we need to know what is the particular topic subject is. So to support that, now I am taking you through about some definitions. There may be so many definitions you can find in textbooks, but I'll take one or two important perspectives so that you can have an idea about what is project financing, what is project lending, what is infrastructure financing. In day-to-day banking, you probably heard about this. We have a project financing division in our bank, infrastructure financing division in our bank, project lending division in our bank. So now, since that you know about the nature and the importance of the project financing, you have some idea about what basically they are doing, what type of initiatives they are financing. So with this, you get a further understanding about project financing. Long-term financing of infrastructure and industrial projects based upon the projected cash flows of the project rather than the balance sheets of the project sponsors. That's the first line that I am going to discuss with you. It basically talks about long-term financing of infrastructure and industrial projects. So you hear about previously, it's a long term, it's not a short term. Because when you say long term, it talks about asset financing or items which has a longer period of life. And again, we talk about industrial projects. It may not be talk about working capital. It may not be talking about, say, agricultural. It talks about projects, industrial projects, about manufacturing plant, about hydropower plant. So some kind of industrial activities are taking place. So it gives us an idea that something huge, complex. It's very important in terms of financing, in terms of survival, in terms of profitability. So that's why I say long-term financing, because you can't get the money in very short term, in like working capital. You even to think about the return in the capital might start in 2 years' time, not immediately, not in 3 months, not in 6 months. That's why it's a long term. So keywords are long term. Infrastructure and industrial projects are the target market there. Then very nice point here, based on the projected cash flows. What is that? Now I was telling you, now if I talk about immediate cash flows, current cash flows, day-to-day cash flows, so you don't have a bigger risk because you know where that you are getting the money. Let's say you give money to purchase a stock and then disposing the stocks, you are supposed to get the money. But here it is not, because it's long term, and once you implement it, the cash flows are generated through the projects to service your debt. That's what say a future cash flows, projected cash flows. Very important perspective. And not the balance sheet of the project sponsors. Good to have a balance sheet, but based on the balance sheet that you can't say the customer can repay. But if you are trying to give a smaller loan to a customer, say purchase a land, purchase a machine, purchase a vehicle, purchasing stock, then you might not very much thinking about the future cash flows, because based on the balance sheet, you can say, you know, they are good at this exposure. They are good for this exposure. But here in project financing, you are not saying so. It's about forecasted, future, projected cash flows. So most important points here is a long-term financing, projected cash flows, not depending on the balance sheet of the project sponsors. Very important points under line 1. Point number 2, loans secured by assets paid entirely from the project cash flows, as we just discussed, than the general assets of the creditworthiness of the project sponsors. Similar thing that they are talking about. Parties secured by the project assets, because we need to have kind of some collateral cover. Where we are getting that collateral cover is based or is from the project assets, not any other collateral. But in day-to-day banking, we might see, we might have a experience where you give a loan against a collateral which is not directly relevant to the usage of that money, because there is a land, you take it as a mortgage, you give the money for working capital, not directly related. But here it is a project, so you give the loan, and the loan is secured, maybe the project assets. If you are trying to finance in hospital, your loan is basically covered from the land, hospital building, machinery that you are, bringing to the hospital. That's what say loan secured by the project assets. Then again, it talks about credit worthiness. Balance sheet, yes, not based on the balance sheet, not based on the credit worthiness, because it's basically should be dependent on project cash flows. That's point number 2. Point number 3, projects lenders are given a lien on all of these assets and are able to assume control of a project if the project company has difficulties complying with the loan terms. Why this type of thing is applicable? Because these are big in size, complex in cash flows, longer tenor, high risk. So then bankers are also part and parcel of these projects. Hence, lenders are given the lien of all these assets. Because in case if the sponsor is unable to make it, then the banker should come and help the project to successful. Because what would happen is, not like in general lending, in project lending, if the project fails, not only the sponsor, but also the bank has to be in a receiving end. because it's a huge amount. If you take an example about hydro power plant, highway project, maybe 3 billion, 4 billion investment. Investor bring maybe 1 billion, then the balance 3 billion could be a syndication loan. I mean the loans provided by the banks. If the project is not successful, then bankers also be in a difficult situation. Hence, then you have a kind of option to intervene with the project and then get it run in order to recover your dues. So these are the points that we can understand to define the project financing. It's a long-term financing of infrastructure and industrial projects based upon the project cash flows, then on the balance sheet or then on the creditworthiness. Also, it talks about loans secured with the project assets. And again, it also talks about the lenders are given the lien of all the assets relating to the project. These are some of the definitions that you can find in many textbooks, because I just want to share it here with you so that you will have a better understanding about project financing, project lending, right? In going forward also, we try to understand in detail about project financing, features of the project financing, how we are going to evaluate the kind of a project. So far, it's a kind of a basic idea about project and project financing. Now we move to basic categories of lending. What is these basic categories of lending? Here, I'm trying to discuss with you 3 basic categories of lending: asset-based lending, cash flow-based lending, project-based lending. So sometimes you might hear there are several other type of lending available in day-to-day banking, like fee-based lending. I also touch about fee-based lending once we complete these 3, because it's a kind of a important type of lending that you are finding in day-to-day basis. What is asset-based lending? Or sometimes you can see about collateral-based lending also. It's another term that you can find for the asset-based. In brief, it's something where you give a kind of a loan to a customer against a particular asset. What's cash flow based lending? In brief, you give a kind of loan to a customer against cash flows, like working capital financing. What is project based lending? It's again, we just discussed about project financing. So project based lending is again a loan to a project or initiative or venture, which is against the cash flows, but remember future cash flows. Those are in brief asset, cash flow, project. Then let's move on to detail to learn one by one what are these categories of lending, what are the advantages of disadvantage of these lending, and why we need to know about this type of lending in day-to-day banking. And just one point, so that we have categorized this as asset-based, cash flow-based, project-based, fee-based. You might be hearing these names, but in practical, sometimes you may not be in a position to understand exactly this is asset-based, this is cash flow-based. Because why? Sometimes you may have a combination of these type of lending also. I'll tell you an example. When you say cash flow-based lending, the definition says about lending against cash flows. It does not say that you can't get any collateral from the customer. If you are in a position to get a collateral from a customer, say about land, vehicle, some other mortgage, so you are free to get that one, because you need to cover a kind of operational risk, structural risk. To mitigate some structural risk, you can get a collateral. So when you say cash flow based lending with the collateral, then somebody would say cash flow based lending is against cash flows. Why do you are talking about why do you are getting a collateral? No. Based on the risk, based on the credit risk, So you may not ask for a collateral from a prospective customer. If the customer is having a collateral, it's better to get it. Minimize structural risk, in turn, credit risk. So there you can see features of cash flows as well as asset base. That's why I was telling, though you learn it in practice, sometimes that you will couple with kind of some concepts of one or two lending types in order to strengthen the banker's position. So having said that, we move to learn asset-based lending and its advantages, disadvantages to the banker. Loan is granted based on the value of the property offered as collateral security. Determining income as source of repayment is of a secondary importance. Timing of payments are based on agreed period rather than the period of cash inflow, cash flow. Example, gold loans. Example, pawning. Example, cashback loans. We try to understand one by one. Loan is granted based on the value of the property. What is that? Let's say customer comes and tell you, I have 10 million deposit. Can you give me money against that? Probably you might say, yes, I can give you money up to the 95% of the deposit if I put in a fixed deposit with me, or 90% of the deposit if I put in a deposit with me. It basically talks about loan against the value of the collateral. Determining income as source of repayment is secondary importance. So there you have not thought about, you have not discussed about the repayment method. Why? It doesn't say that you are going to uplift the fixed deposit and settle the particular loan. In case of emergency that you can do, that's the option. But you may not be worried about how the customer is going to repay, because there is a second way out is there, but it's not the paramount important concept, criteria. Against cash that you can give. You presume the customer in a position to service interest. If it's OD, it's a term loan, you presume the customer could bring the money at right time to service the monthly installments. Take a gold loan, take a pawning. You're not asking about how you're going to settle that. Where you get the money? Monthly dues are like this. Are you in a position to do that? No. You are not very much interested to see how the customer bring in the money to service the monthly installment or interest or at the redemption or at the maturity. You're not very much interested. I'm not saying that you should practice that. But the thing is, because you predominantly depend on the asset. That's why we talk about asset-based lending. That's why I don't talk about the collateral-based lending. I'm not here to say that's a correct or bad lending, because it's available in the market. But practically, you can't ask about what is the monthly repayment, monthly source of income, what are the sources that you are going to show me about the validity of the particular cash flow. You may not be asking to that extent. Why? Because it's type of asset base. You set the kind of a loan against a particular asset. That's why we call asset-based lending. Hope you have got an idea what is asset-based lending. We're trying to understand the advantages and disadvantages, because every type of lending will have merits and demerits, pros and cons. Advantages. Lending appears less risky. Why? Because you are giving the money against something, against a collateral, against cash, against gold, against the very good property. So in case of a default, you don't have to worry, because there are some asset to cover that. That's why we say lending appears less risky. It's advantages to the lender. Loan based on the value of the property, easy to determine. Loan based on the value of the collateral. Value of the property. Value of the gold that you are going to get. Value of the sovereign. It's important here. Cash value. Value of the property says 100 million property. That if you want to give a 10 million OD, it's not a big deal for you because a huge value. Easy to determine. Easy to grant a loan. No hassle in turning around. So those are some of the things, advantages perspective. When come to the disadvantages, there are disadvantages also. Greater risk of delinquency due to loan size not based on borrower's repayment capacity. Very good point. What is all about? Say a customer comes and gives some kind of a gold items, and based on the gold, you give say 2 million loan to the particular customer. But you never ascertain the repayment method, the sources of repayment. Because if you are going to ask that type of questions, you might lose the business transaction. But those gold items may be owned by the particular borrower through different means. Through family, whatever other sources. But now they are in a difficult situation. They are not earning any money. But in asset perspective, yes, you can give the money. But in loan servicing, they might not be in a position. Because we are not ascertaining here how the customer is going to repay it. So loan size not based on borrower's repayment capacity. Very important point. You have to live with this type of problems when you are trying to undertake asset-based lending. Repayment schedule not based off client's cash flow. Very important point. Because you are not setting the repayment. It's a cashback loan, it's a property back loan, it's a owning, gold loan. So you are not worrying about customer repayment sources, plans, timing, because here a predominant factor is the asset. But when you say the customer has to pay 6 months, it's a gold loan, but you never worry how the customer is going to bring the money in the 6 months. In a pawning, after 1 year, you're not supposed to inquire the customer the sources of financing, sources of funds. You assume the customer could pay after 1 year and get release this particular gold pawning articles. But repayment schedule is not now based on client's cash flows because you are not worried about cash flows here. It's another disadvantage. Value of the property could fluctuate. It could be upward trend, it could be downward trend, depending on circumstances. Because you say, yeah, based on the value, I will give money. Example again, gold. We presume the value is the gold are appreciating, but there are times it has come down. So then we need to take a hit. If the gold price is going to crash, it's coming down, you need to take a hit because you predominantly depend on the value of the collateral. So here, what we trying to understand was what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages of asset-based lending. Very important, as I was telling in the beginning of starting these categories of lending, because this is one type of lending available in the market where you need a better approach to acquire customer, retain customer, and make maximum use of this type of lending. But always welcome to couple with other types of lending categories into this. Just example, you give asset-based lending, but it is no harm that you inquire the customer's cash flow forecast, method of repayment, sources of repayment, timing of cash flows. It's good to do if you are in a position, because it says that you are coupling asset-based lending into the cash flow-based lending. Hope you understand the asset-based lending definition and the advantages and disadvantages. advantages. Now we move to next type of lending category, cash flow based lending. Very important here is consider borrowers' cash flows, but it is present cash flows, near-term cash flows, immediate cash flows, right? It says, yes, you give a loan to a customer, and the loan amount based on the customer's capacity to repay. What is that? Let's say you are attached to a company and you are executive of the particular company, and you go to a bank and you ask a personal loan. Then bank would see what's your present salary, what are the deductions, what's the take-home salary, and they say, right, based on the take-home salary, I might give 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times loan to you. What exactly it says? The banker would have looked into the present cash flows, and then they decide the amount to you. Have you come across a kind of experience where when you go to a bank and you say, you know, I am so and so, but I am about to get a promotion, maybe my next level. So when I get that promotion, my basic salary would go to this level. I get a vehicle allowance of this much. I get another allowance of this much. So my salary effectively would go increase by another 50 to 100,000. So can you consider that and give me a personal loan? No. Then they would say, once you get promoted, and bring the kind of details so that I can reconsider. For the time being, I am not in a position to think about the future cash flows. So basically it tells about the present cash flow. Another example, it could be working capital loan. When working capital loan, customer comes to you and says that, you know, I am in need of financing this much of stocks. I am in need of financing my debtor of this much. Probably the banker would see, you know, stock levels, debtor levels, and then, you know, estimate the requirement and give a kind of a short-term financing. The settlement source could be disposing of the assets, realization of the debts. So we'll settle your particular debt. We talk about present, immediate, near cash flows. So that's about the cash flow lending we are discussing here. Loan amount is based on the capacity of the borrower to repay. Third point, repayment schedule is based on the borrower's timing of cash flows. Now, in the asset base, you never worry about cash flow, timing, capacity. But when it comes to the cash flow based lending, you are not very much worried about a collateral. But you talk about customers' present cash flows, timing of cash flows, capacity to repay, sources of repayment. Those are the important points here. So this is very much in line with working capital financing, microfinancing, personal loans. So this is basically, you think about customers' present day cash flows. Now remember the present, because you are in a position to understand customers' immediate cash flows, present cash flows. So then you are in a position to offer a customer a facility based on the cash flows. There again, you are in a position to understand some advantages as well as disadvantages. First, we look into advantages of cash flow based lending. Default due to fund diversion minimize. What do you understand? When you say you give money to a customer, and then if you can ensure to what purpose the customer is using the money, is important. If you don't know the customer's using of money, then it's a bit tricky position. If you think about asset-based financing, volatile-based financing, you are never ever ask about the purpose. May not be practical. Customer comes and gives some deposit, and against that you give money, then you never ask, may I know, sir, what purpose that you are going to use the money? Probably you might not ask. It might get antagonized. Customer get antagonized. Right? You might say that this is my money. Why are you asking for this usage? It's personal. That's what in asset base, because the customer in a higher bargaining position. But here in cash flow base, your number one inquiry could be, what is the purpose? What's the end use of money? Purchase stock, financing debtors, financing overheads. So you know exact purpose. If you know the exact purpose, then it tells you the repayment also. If it is a stock, so disposing of the stocks will bring the money to bank. You give money to customer to import a vehicle and pay duty. You know the vehicle is in the yard. When the customer sells a vehicle, the money should come to the account so that your import loan could be settled. So when you know the purpose, when you know the end use, then it's very easy to understand, or when it is very easy to minimize the diversion of the money. That's number one. Number two, loan size, terms, and repayment based on borrower's cash flows. Very good point. Now, earlier, irrespective of customer repayment, you have approved a loan because you have an asset. You have a value of the asset, value of the collateral. But here, loan amount, a tenor, other terms are going to decide based on customers' cash flow, timing of cash flow, amount of cash flow, sources of cash flow. Those are the determinant factors. So that's why in our previous example, when you go to a bank with your salary slip, they might compute based on the take-home salary. I might give you 3 times, 4 times, because they know for sure that this is what maximum that you can repay during the particular tenor. So then the loan size is going to determine based on these factors. Last one, best suited for short-term working capital loans. Why? Because you are in a position to understand the timing, source, amount of cash flows, because everything is immediate, near future, less risky, shorter perspective. So it's good that if you accommodate that type of requirement through cash flow based financing. So those are the 3 advantages that we need to keep in our mind. First one, minimize the fund diversion. Second one, loan size, terms, and repayment based on the borrower's cash flow. Third one, it's suitable for short-term financing like working capital. Those are the advantages. There are always disadvantages. What are those disadvantages in cash flow based lending? Conservative loan sizes initially could work against low income clients. What is that? Because now let's say when you are thinking about cash flow based lending, the loan amount is basically set against the cash flows. Say in the previous example, you are earning something, but there is a potential that you go to a next level in the organization. But today's context, you can't convince your probable promotion to your banker. It depends on what you are earning today. Similarly, if you are low income earning entrepreneur, you have to go to a bank and say that this is what I'm earning right now, but I have a possibility to earn 500,000 more, but the banker would not recognize that. Because if you're going by the cash flows, then you go by the present day cash flows. It's a disadvantageous if you want to grow, if you want to go for the next level, which is not practical through the cash flow based lending. Number 2, not the best tool for determining loan requirement of projects needing capital expenditures or long-term investment. Because it's good, it's for the short term. It's a long term, you may not be in a good proposition, because cash flow based lending is not working for the long term investment, long term perspective. But in terms of project also, if you need a higher capital, bigger loan may not be possible because it's a long term capital expenditure, difficult to convince your bank. So what's the alternative now? Because again, I'm telling you about advantages, disadvantages of cash flow based lending. Now you see some kind of disadvantages in of cash flow base. But when you say cash flow base, it's a present day cash flow, immediate cash flow, near future cash flow. Then there may be a solution in order to address this kind of a requirement as well. Let's see what are those solutions, what is the available method to support that we come across at cash flow based lending. Prior to that, we also try to understand more on the cash flow based lending. It basically gives the bank ideas on how much, how long, how frequently. It's all about cash flow, timing, capacity, sources of cash flow. How much loan a prospective client can afford to pay. That's about based on the cash flows that you are in a position to understand how much a loan can be repaid, because you know this is the cash flow available, this is the amount, this is a monthly commitment, quarterly commitment, biannual commitment. So I am in a position to approve that kind of a loan to a particular entrepreneur. How long the term of the loan should be? What's the tenor? Am I, as a banker, giving the 9 months tenor, 6 month tenor, 3 months tenor? So everything is easy to determine because I know exactly what the cash flows are taking place, cash flow patterns are. Third one, how frequently, right? Am I to ask the customer, asking to the customer to pay daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly? So depending on the customer's cash flows, there may be some customers can, pay, send the money daily, some weekly, some monthly, some quarterly, some biannually, depending on the business that they are in. But easy to determine, easy to judge. So those are some of the things that we need to understand in the cash flow based lending. Then we move to another type of lending, as I was telling, to understand or minimize the issues in the cash flow lending that we call project based lending. If you remember, we were talking about under the cash flow based lending, there are some restrictions in cash flow based lending due to the fact that cash flows cannot be ascertained in longer term. It talks about present day cash flows. It talks about immediate cash flows. But in terms of project based lending, it talks about future cash flows, expected cash flows, projected cash flows, forecasted cash flows. It's a good thing that you need to, have something to support that type of customers. Say, I am entrepreneur, I am going to bank and say, I am so and so, I have this much of experience, I am planning to, start this type of a venture, and this is basically my project plan, my business plan. Can you join me as an investor, as a lender to support me? Then bank would go through and see, there are, some positives, some negatives, and after weighing through positives and negatives, the bank is confident to finance that. But today you have only a paper, you have a project concept, but implementation and operationalization and real operations could happen in 2 years' time. It's all about future. Then if the bank would come and tell you again, no, the problem is, we do only asset-based or collateral-based, we do like cash flow-based lending, we are unable to do a kind of a futuristic lending, there is not the answer the entrepreneur would expect. But you need to have a kind of answer for that type of ventures as well. So to support that, so you could use the project-based lending. That is a method of cash flow which is based on the future or expected cash flows of the project or activity to be financed. That's how it has been defined. A method of cash flow lending which is based on the future or expected cash flows of the project or activity to be financed. It's like a rice mill, it's like a hotel, garment factory, hospital. So where you expect the particular enterprise to come up with the particular project and complete it and generate cash. So based on that cash flow, you can service your debt. That's what we say the project-based lending, which is complex, as I was discussed, as we learned at the outset. It's important. Amount is huge, futuristic, time value. So many things are involved in this project-based lending. Then collateral is secondary consideration. Like cash flow-based lending, here also collateral is not a must, but it's good to have. But it does not say that if you don't have adequate collateral and then I'm not going to finance your project, is not a proposition here. We get the collateral, whatever available levels, but we are not taking that as primary consideration. It's not the primary. It's not the main requirement. You do it, but it's not the main requirement, primary requirement. Primary consideration is the viability of the project. What is that? Viability. When you say word viability, it's not simple. Viability in terms of so many things could come. In terms of financial, in terms of management, in terms of environmental, in terms of economical, in terms of social, technical, I mean, so many things now come into play. That's the riskiness of the project also. We'll discuss further in the second slide about the viability. So basically, this is the third type of lending that we call project-based lending. In project-based lending, we talk about futuristic, projected cash flows, and based on the projected or futuristic lending, futuristic cash flows, we try to provide financing to the entrepreneurs requiring long-term financing. So that's what we understand as the project-based lending. Like previously, asset-based lending or cash flow-based lending, here again, we try to find project-based lending also some advantages as well as disadvantages. Now we move to understand further on project-based lending in terms of advantages and the disadvantages. What are the advantages? So repayment is based on future cash flows of the project. It's a unique feature in the project-based lending. In earlier two versions, you don't have that capacity. In the asset-based lending, you talk about lending against assets. Cash flow-based lending, you talk about lending against present-day cash flows. But here we talk about future cash flows. Here there is a big opportunity for entrepreneurs if they are thinking about future. they're trying to do something in the future. If they say, no, today I have some skills, knowledge, aptitude, and some money. But if I am given this much of money, I am in a position to bring my concepts to next level, which may be a money making. But today you don't have anything, but still it's subject to financing due to some due to qualification of some of the factors. So it's a good opportunity. Startup projects may qualify. Poorest households can have access. Very good point. I was just talking about startup because today I don't have anything, but it's a startup. But there is a potential in time to come. But those things could be qualified under the project base because there's a strong future cash flows. So then there is a chance that the banker would come and take that kind of a risk. That is basically called development financing. That is basically called the project financing. That's what we are trying to learn during this 3 to 4 months. Best suited for development projects or programs. What is that? Earlier we talked about cash flow base may not be suitable for long-term development projects because it doesn't have a scope. But project lending is specifically for the futuristic lending, project-based lending, development financing, capital-intensive projects. So those are some advantages in project-based. Similarly, there are some disadvantages also. Highly prone to diversion of loan proceeded by the borrower. What is that? Because in a project, not like previous instance, it's new. Everything new. Yet to come up with a bigger building we talk about. So then very difficult to monitor sometimes. You might say, yes, you are trying to put up a building and based on whatever estimates per square meter is this much. So this is the bank contribution to come to this level or this level. But when you give the money, may not be exactly to the sponsor, maybe the contractor per se, but still there is a chance of diversion. There's a very close monitoring is required. May not be easy, right? Then there is a chance of diversion of money also there. But to minimize that, there may be so many terms and conditions are going to impose. But there's a chance that your money may not be used for the intended purpose. The risk here is when you are not using the money for the intended purpose, then the project may not be completed as expected at particular right interval. Then you are unable to generate cash flows, which is the ultimate source of repayment of your loan. Then you are at a difficult wicket where the project has not been completed, not generating adequate cash, no method of servicing your debt, which both parties are now in a difficulty. So you need to have a better control to minimize the diversion, but there is a likelihood of diversion in this project financing. Require extensive analysis on feasibility, viability of the project. That's what I want to discuss with you. So basically, now, when you say require extensive analysis, it needs people, expertise. You need expertise to analyze. You need money. You need to have methods. You need to have adequate time. So it's a lengthy, complex exercise. Not easy. So when you say feasibility or viability, as I was telling briefly in the previous slide, there may be so many areas that you look into. You need to look into. Example, financial feasibility. What's a financial feasibility? So the project need to generate adequate cash, repay your debt. Then you need to have a very good projected balance sheet, projected P&L, projected cash flow statement, projected equity statement. Like historical financial data, you need to have the projected financial data as well. Then only you can say, yes, there is a less financial impact on repayment. There may be another aspect. If you take market feasibility, what's a market feasibility? Maybe this is a new project, new venture. There should be adequate market in the future for the particular venture to prosper. Let's say you are going to put up a hospital, but once you come up, there may be other hospital, could be a competitor to you. But during that competition, within that competition, you might not be able to succeed, which have a direct impact on your repayment. Initially, it comes as a market risk, then lead to the credit risk. That's about market feasibility. What about the management feasibility? It's another area. The management feasibility is talk about the capacity, qualification, experience, expertise, depth, integrity of the management of the particular company who is undertaking this project. There may be directors, senior managers, senior management, shareholders, so many things that you need to be worried about. If they are not competent enough, then probably there is a management risk. They are unable to start, complete, and operate. Or subsequent to the start, they may not be able to cope up with the problems that could arise from the outside as well as inside. You need to analyze it day one, because it's all about new. That's the riskiness of this project. So many other things about social viability, economic viability, environmental viability, legal viability, technical viability. I mean, so many areas that you need to be concerned with. If somewhere something going wrong, even one feasibility is not working right, so there is a likelihood of total project could collapse. Maybe it could be something about environmental. You may not have adequate environmental support, environmental clearance. Even it could happen subsequently. Today, it doesn't have it, but later during the project, it could come. Then again, you need to adjust and adopt it and get it clear if you want to complete this project. Because without that, you might not be able to complete this project as a complete venture. So very important. So require extensive analysis, which is not possible for every banker to come up and finalize. So that's why we don't see every bank is very much engaged in project financing. There you see expert people housing in a particular department, and they are very thorough on this project financing. Last, highly vulnerable to various project risk. What is that? Because we talk about some feasibilities here. So at each feasibility, you might come across with a project risk. Let's say management. Failure of management to undertake this project could lead to management risk. Market feasibility. If there is any issues come across, crop up in the market evaluation, marketing, running the project, could lead to the market risk, financial risk, technical risk, environmental risk, legal risk. There may be equal number of risk also, we call the project risk, available or could be emanated during the implementation period or even after post-implementation period. So need to be watchful. Hope that you have got an idea about disadvantages. So we are discussing these things comprehensively when we come to the project appraisal, which is in later session. But today I wanted to give you a kind of some basic understanding about different type of categories in lending. So here we discuss about project-based lending. There is advantages as well as disadvantages. Before moving to the next slide, I just want to share with something about fee-based lending, which is not in the part of the presentation, but I want to share fee-based lending because it's again, you can have an experience in your day-to-day banking about fee-based lending. So fee-based lending is something you try to provide off-balance sheet financing or different services to your customers, and you earn a fee, service fee, in terms of non-interest income. You call about interest income, non-interest income. So interest income is basically you are getting from on-balance sheet financing, where you give some money you are getting from the depositors to the lenders so that you earn something. On that we call interest income. There are some other products like bank guarantees, letter of credit, performance bonds, shipping guarantees. So different products which are intangible in nature or balance sheet. So by providing those things, you earn some income. We call fee income, non-interest income. So in a banking book, we have both interest income, non-interest income. We have interest income, we have fee income. So when you say fee-based financing is all about, offering these fee-based products and earn a service income or fee income, we call as a fee-based financing. So in a bank, it's advantageous to have fee-based products also, so that you are in a position to manage your banking book, your banking portfolio, in terms of risk, in terms of liquidity, or in terms of capital adequacy, by having these two types of products. So we have asset-based or collateral-based financing, we have cash flow-based financing, we have project-based financing, and we have fee-based financing. To sum up with this type of lending, I am again reiterating that though we have different learnings here or classifications here, but when it comes to practice, you may not have necessarily to one type of lending at a given time. You can always combine one or two and offer the customer, which tells you the best deal for customer as well as the bank. Because we need to strengthen the banker's position while servicing the customer. So basically today, as a first lesson, we try to understand about what is project financing and kind of a definitions of the project financing, and then why the project financing is important in terms of nature, in terms of about importance, and we ended up with types of lending or categories of lending, mainly 3 categories of lending, that is asset or collateral based financing, cash flow based financing, project based financing, and I also shared with you about some features of the fee based financing. And the last point, so this is basically that what we have discussed. And again, if you can get an idea on these type of questions, nature importance, project financing, why important for developing economy, and basic categories of lending, and compare and contrast each categories of lending. So as a rehearsal that you can do it as some questions, and then when we meet up, actually we can discuss it further. Stages of project cycle that I am trying to cover under the project financing and project appraisal in detail under different session. For the time being, basically you can focus on whatever we discussed today, and you can attempt these type of question. Maybe answers could be like 5 to 6 lines, so that you get further familiarization of what we learned today, and then we can further discuss and as an ongoing exercise, because this is the kind of introduction of the project and project financing, so could be important in whatever other sessions that we are planning to discuss. So it's like kind of since I have completed the initial session, it's up to you that if you do have any questions, right, so that it's a kind of we can make a kind of interactive session for about next 10 to 15 minutes if you do have any questions. So do you have any areas of further clarification? Any questions? It's your turn. Any questions, my dear students? Do you hear me?
Yes, no question.
Any questions or any clarifications?
No, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, I don't think this is a very kind of a technical or the complex area. So maybe I think we have taken a kind of some possible start. Let's see, you can have your feedbacks also so that we can further improve during the next session. So next week, basically, we are trying to discuss about SME financing type of products and what's the importance of SME in terms of development banking. So we try to meet up next Sunday, 8 o'clock. So thank you very much for being with me and have a nice weekend. Thank you.